Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and before we get going, I wanted to tell you, in the group today, we're going to talk about the changing world order and why I think this was all planned a long time ago, and it's also going to involve a wild and crazy theory about XRP, which in my opinion was part of the plan long ago too. So if you want to join, and you'll get that extended part of the video, but you'll also get the full video with no commercials. You got two options. Go to daixrp.com if you want to join through the Patreon, or you can click right down here below every video on YouTube and click the join button. Less than the cost of a cup of coffee. Go check it out. The market is down a little bit today, not anything drastic. We've got a $2.06 XRP, and this is all around the anticipation of what the market's going to do Monday morning. Everybody's freaked out about the tariffs. I think this thing has an extremely good ending because it's going to end up being to the benefit of this country, and we're literally creating a new revenue stream that we didn't have. And when all the settlement negotiations are final, all of a sudden, all that fear is going to turn into, wait a minute, this country is making a lot more money now. And this country has more factories and more people producing things. And that's a good thing. So, but here's all the fear. Now, remember, these guys have been the props of Wall Street for decades. The Jim Cramers of the world. He's saying, Black Monday, he's talking about Black Monday. I did a project on Black Monday with the help of my father, who is the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel. When I was in 8th grade, I did a project on Black Monday. Here's what he's talking about. And if you've been in crypto for a while, the idea of a 23% pullback, that's like nothing.
The president doesn't try to reach out and reward these countries and companies that play by the rules in the 1987 scenario. The one where we went down 3 days and then down 22% on Monday has the most cogency. We will not have to wait out too long, will we? We'll know by Monday. Fortunately, we had an excellent set of employment numbers today. At least it makes it less likely a crash will necessarily lead to a recession. But if President Trump stays intransigent and does nothing to ameliorate the damage that I saw these last 2 days, I'm not going to be constructive here. I will contain my anger, but only because I lived through 87, and in the end, I came out okay. I was in cash for the crash. I know what this feels like. Oh, and if Europe moves against our fabulous tech companies next week, then I will be furious. That I promise you, because it should not happen.
And then he had tweeted this: I think the difference between now and 1987 is the circuit breakers could slow things down. We'll write about this in my CNBC Investing Club Sunday Think piece. Circuit breakers is basically just something they put in place to halt stocks so that Wall Street never gets hurt on the downside too bad. So it's a rigged game, folks. Always has been. Why don't they have circuit breakers in crypto? And then this guy is talking black swan. Look, folks, these financial media people, they're the same people who have lied for a decade about crypto.
I'd say, look, in 25 years going through, when you think about dot-com bubble, burst, financial crisis, COVID lows. So, I've seen every type of crisis there is. I think it's the most absurd thing that I've seen in terms of those 25 years. And I think it's economic.
It's absurd to try to bring manufacturing back to this country to save it financially. That's absurd.
Armageddon that's coming our way. And I think it could ultimately set U.S. tech back many years. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Talking to executives around the world the last 48, 72 hours, is that I don't think a lot of tech companies are going to give guidance in terms of 1Q. And I think baked in here is already called 5-10% cuts off the bat in terms of growth. If this stays, it ultimately, this becomes a black swan event. You're playing with third rail issue here.
Is that priced in?
Okay, a black swan event. Now that you've heard these guys peddling their fear, let's hear some common sense.
So we really need to change the way trade works around the world. It's tariffs, but don't get confused that these non-tariff trade barriers, they are the monster that needs to be slayed.
You've been consistent about this argument: subsidized production, manipulated currencies, foreign trade barriers, something the president addressed just last night. Can we just sit on the numbers just for a moment? The EU, 20%, 24% on Japan, 34% on China. Just what exactly was the methodology to go through all those different barriers to entry that you want to knock down? How did you come up with these numbers?
Well, the Council of Economic Advisors, the PhD economists of the administration, coupled with USTR, the United States Trade Representative, they publish a book called Trade Barriers, about this thick, right? And they've been analyzing for decades all of these different tools that these other economies use to hurt America, right? They won't take our corn in India. They won't take our beef almost anywhere. It's unbelievable. They won't take our agricultural products. They just treat us badly because we've allowed them to treat us badly. And when you finally go back at them and say, this has got to end, it's going to be tough for them because they've built their whole social network, their whole economies on basically exploiting America. And Donald Trump has said, it's time for America to change that. It's going to be difficult for them to change that, but eventually America is going to be treated fairly, and the production of American factories is going to be incredibly strong growth, and you're going to see that growth reverberate through GDP. Remember, people forget the D, gross domestic production. If you buy a foreign-made Toyota, that is not domestic production. Making a car in America, that's domestic production.
Basic common sense, and here's more.
What will happen with tariffs over time, the ultimate goal of the tariffs, and the president says it all the time, bring your factory here. That's the best solution toward getting away from a tariff wall. So move your factory from China, from Mexico, from Vietnam, bring it here. So what will happen over time, we'll have substantial tariff income in the beginning. Manufacturers will build their factory here. The tariffs will drop, but the revenue from the factories, from income taxes, from all the new jobs will go up. So we'll be taking it in domestically as the tariffs drop. And why are the tariffs dropping? Because we're making it here and our trade deficit's dropping.
Bingo. Then we've got this. This is the part the mainstream financial media is not going to focus on. India to negotiate a new and balanced trade deal with the U.S. to avoid President Trump's tariffs. Indonesia will not retaliate against Trump tariffs, official says. Vietnam offers to remove all tariffs on U.S. imports to avoid President Trump's tariffs. You see how this works? And the big boys like China, they'll eventually work something out too with the U.S. I mean, all these countries have an incentive to work something out in the short run, not the long run. They get hurt too. This is a great tweet from a Bitcoin handle. Ripple isn't waiting for change, it's coding it into the system. RLUSD is powering auto payments to 500 plus drought hit pastoralists. What is that? Pastoralists in Kenya using real-time satellite data. Oh, satellite data? You don't mean Starlink, do you? Smart contracts will send $75 per person instantly if vegetation dips below crisis levels. No middlemen, no waiting. Backed by Ripple, Mercy Corps, and Diva Donate. This is blockchain being used for real people in real time. Relief gets the fast, track trusted. Forget delays. This is aid you can see and trace from the sky down. Is Ripple quietly becoming the blueprint for next-gen humanitarian aid? Time to watch closely. And they've got an article here about RLUSD in Kenya. I remember somebody telling you that Starlink satellites would be what is used for all this blockchain payments for financial inclusion. I remember all those people that said I was crazy and that was whack job thinking and no way. Well, welcome to the party. Speaking of the party, listen to what this guy on Matthew Piepenberg, he was on with the Black Swan Capitalist guys, who I love. I think they're great.
Because your government and your constitution's been muted, your constitution's been killed, sound money was killed, and your government isn't telling you the truth because they can't admit. They have a pathological inability to say we really screwed this up. Maybe QE1 was where we should have stopped. Maybe our Fed balance sheet shouldn't have gone to 9 trillion at some point. And believe me, the QT that we're seeing now is very quickly going to turn to QE. We're going to see more rate cuts, not rate hikes, because we can't fight inflation at 37 trillion. We don't have a Volcker solution. Again, these are complex things to the average man and woman, as they should be, because they have other things to worry about. 20% of Americans have a job that just all their salary goes just to their rent. They have to take a second job just to pay for things.
All right. And then this is another great clip.
Nefarious groups like the IMF, the World Bank, and central banks in general, and the Fed in particular, love, and certainly darker motive kind of political unelected officials love to use crisis, manufacture crisis as an opportunity, whether it's coincidental or intentional. And during the COVID crisis, the IMF had this wonderful video with Georgina on there saying, look, even of course the great Klaus Schwab during the WEF saying this is the crisis of a generation. No, it really wasn't. Even if you look at just the math, despite the horrible nature of people who suffered from it, the math just didn't compare. But they were comparing in 2020 COVID to World War II. And I've said this many times. I'm an American with a German father, French family, live in Europe, spent half my life in 2 different continents. But anyone in Europe knows the 85 million killed during World War II, the destruction of most of its cities, the occupation of my home, where I live now, by the Germans, and the slaughters in the villages and the graveyards filled. You cannot even compare the crisis of World War II to COVID. And yet, what they were trying to say...
That's because it was a marketing program. It wasn't real. I mean, it was real in that somebody unleashed COVID on the world. But I think it was intentional, and I think that it was a plan.
Say is, look, we have a debt crisis now because of COVID, effectively. Well, the debt crisis was there long before COVID. And what we need to do now is think about a Bretton Woods 2.0. This was in 2020. This is a classic, you can call it PSYOP, dark state, or coincidence. This is a classic method of telegraphing years in advance what you're going to do, blaming it on some extraneous event that's not your fault, and then using that as a pretext for more centralization, because centralization always follows desperation. When, as Hemingway said, when you get into a debt corner, nations do 2 things. They debase their currency, they go to war, and they centralize. 3 things, really. It's all tied together.
Yep. Now, this is interesting. This was a tweet this morning. Pierre Richard, the Bitcoin nut. Bitcoin is going to save the financial system, and Jack says by replacing it. And I said, and then I retweeted and said, on the XRP ledger, Jack. And I retweeted it with that Jack Dorsey post that he did where Bitcoin converts into XRP. And then this came out yesterday or the day before, statement from acting chairman Mark Uyeda from the SEC, pursuant to the executive order 14192, unleashing prosperity through deregulation together. Recommendations from Doge, I've requested SEC staff to promptly review the following statements. And the one I want to focus in on was this part of the tweet: framework for investment contract. And I said here, it looks like the SEC is about to address Bill Hinman's intentionally vague Ethereum free pass speech. It was intentionally designed to distort crypto market in favor of Bitcoin and Ethereum. We haven't seen the real market yet. It's coming. And this is the section where they make reference to Bill Hinman's Dow report, and that was called, what was it called? And then the speech was called When Howie Met Gary Plastic. And it references the Bill Hinman speech from June 14th, 2018. I still have the question, where's the Hinman IG report? Now let's look at eGrag Crypto. The kangaroo will jump. As long as we stay above $2, we're on the safest foundation. Many moons ago, I mentioned that $2 would mark the FOMO stage and ignition phase. The shape and formation of the March 2025 candle, strikingly similar to October 2017. The monthly candle in November 2017 ranged before the explosive growth in December 2017 and January 2018. If this pattern holds true, and I'm right about the candle formations rhyming, double digits are on the horizon. 750, 1370, 2730, I'll take them all. All right, We're going to go in the group now. Go to daixrp.com, which is the Patreon, or you can click below this YouTube video and click the join button if you'd prefer to join through YouTube. And we're going to talk about, we're going to lay out this changing world order, what it's really about, and we're going to give you a wild and crazy XRP theory. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.